What I want to talk to you about is community, and is it dead, and how we might use social media to grow this particular community. I want to start by sharing with you a story about how I learnt about community. I grew up in a suburb of Newcastle, New South Wales, and the suburb was a relatively new one, but the roads were unsealed and there was no curb and guttering, which was great for a little boy that when it rained, the gutters overflowed, and being a very clay district, we were able to build dams, catch tadpoles, and we were able to interact with the rest of the neighbourhood. And I learned about community like this. We played cricket in the street because it was safe to do so. And we fished in the local creek and we caught freshwater crayfish and we caught frogs and did all those yummy things that young boys do. And I'm sure the young girls in the street had similar experiences. I'm not sure about the frogs though with the girls. But still, I'm sure they had similar experiences. It wasn't uncommon for us to end the day after school in a neighbour's backyard. And it wasn't uncommon for us to spend half our life in somebody else's house. And I clearly remember one afternoon when it came time for dinner, and there was Mum yelling at the front fence. And of course, being obedient boys, of course, we came immediately, didn't we? And I discovered a very important principle. When we finally did come, when I say we, my brother and I had a brother 15 months, I still do have a brother 15 months younger than me. And when we finally arrived home and stood there in front of a very stern mother, and she said, "Where have you been? I've been calling you." And I said, without thinking, "Well, I didn't hear you the first or second time, I only heard you the third time." Discovered a very important lesson. It wasn't smart to lie to Mum, because there were consequences. But that was my understanding of what community was like. And that was how I learnt about interactions between people and how the whole community was established. Built on that was the way our parents interacted, because it wasn't uncommon for Mum to look after a neighbourhood's kids while the neighbour had something else to attend to. It wasn't uncommon for her to wander and for us to wander in somebody else's backyard without fear of retribution or without fear of anything bad happening to us. And slowly I got an understanding of what community was like, as did my parents. But I look around now and I see things have changed. I look at empty playgrounds like this. And I live in a neighbourhood where there are lots and lots of young children, but I don't see any of them playing. And I wonder why. In fact, I know why. Instead of playing in backyards like this, and instead of experiencing some of the things that I experienced as a young person, hands up those in the audience who can remember the baker and the milkman delivering to your home. Yes, you're right. And I know that my brother and I used to race home to see who could be the first one to have that first loaf off the new tank loaf that was delivered that afternoon. It was still warm, and there was always a fight over it. But this is what front yards look like now. And a backyard like that, hardly could play cricket in it. And when you look at the street, there's nobody playing in the street. So where are they? Where are these children? And how are they establishing community? Well, that's where they are. They're on one of these. And they're establishing their community through Facebook, LinkedIn, eAcademy, and all the other social networks like Twitter that we've already heard about today. And I have to tell you, that is the way of the future. And I often hear people my age and older particularly talk about, "Oh, look, that's for young people. Facebook's for young people. It's not for me." Well, let me tell you that my dear mother, who left us December last year, in her 90th year, learnt how to use an iPad like this, established her own Gmail account, and was writing to the family at 90. And I know there are lots of grandmothers and grandfathers who keep in contact with their kids all around the world via Skype. So I think it's inherent in us in establishing community to expand our horizons and learn about social media. And that's the way this community can grow. I know lots of instances where people are attracted to rural communities because of the connections they've made with people here in Australia who've told them about that community, but they've come from other countries, who've learned about rural areas and see them as desirable, but they've learned about them through social media. All around the world, there are statistics that demonstrate how some rural areas are dying. Towns are dying. On top of that, people are building fences around communities, even here in Australia. You go to some of the new suburbs in Brisbane and you'll see gated communities where people don't even know their neighbours. Yet they can build and they can change. And we've seen a couple of evidences of how that plays out. Who can remember, or who can forget really, the Brisbane floods at the start of this year? And what came out of them? The fabulous Mud Army. A community response, much through social media, that was so big that they had to turn people away. I'm guessing that could never have happened 50 years ago. It probably would have because people knew each other, but these days when people don't know each other and don't interact with each other, don't even know their neighbour's name, here's a way. And a lot of that would have happened through people letting each other know what was happening through Twitter. Of course, closer to home, the Mary River Dam protest, where people who probably didn't even know each other came together and were connected through things like Twitter and knew about them. To me, a community is a group or society helping each other. And the way you can help each other, the way you can grow this community, grow this region, grow this town, this city, is by adopting the use of social media. You know, in January next year, I'm about to head off on a speaking tour worldwide. Now, all of that has been created simply through social media, by me emailing and contacting people through platforms like LinkedIn and Academy and asking for help. I couldn't afford to get on the phone and ask them, but I certainly could afford to do it through social media. And as such, I've been able to create something that I wanted. It doesn't really matter what you're looking for. If you're looking to grow this community, attract new people, attract new industry, social media is the way. And it's no longer, I think Tony said it this morning, it's no longer good enough to say, oh, that's not for me, or that's for young people. It is the way to go. And they're the platforms that you should be using. Show of hands, those people here who are on Twitter, please. Impressive. I'm guessing there's a whole lot of people out there in your community who are not yet, and I don't think age is any barrier. So I think if you really want to build this community, you want to grow it, you want to attract the right sort of people, it's inherent on us all to learn about social media. It's not all that complicated. If my 90-year-old mother can learn how to use an iPad and use Gmail, then all of us can learn how to use all of these social media platforms. Make use of them, make them work for you. Don't see them as an impediment. Don't see them as something that's difficult to do. See them as an addition and an important part of building a community, and then you can attract the community that you want.